Parental love almost destroyed me. When I was a teenager, my parents told me that on my 16th birthday, they planned to have my face permanently scarred. They believed that my appearance was a danger to my future, and if they didn't act, I'd end up using my looks to get ahead in life. My mother had always struggled with insecurities. She was born with facial features she considered unfortunate, and had spent her life watching other women get opportunities she never had. By the time I turned 13, I began resembling the kind of girl she used to envy. She'd stare at me with this strange mix of resentment and fear, muttering things like, "Pretty girls peak young and end up with nothing." My father, meanwhile, was consumed by wild theories about women manipulating the world with their appearance, and he fully supported her twisted plan. Just after I turned 15, they sat me down to announce they had already scheduled a cosmetic procedure that would leave permanent scars across my face, specifically my forehead and cheekbones. They had even made a down payment at a secretive clinic that catered to parents who wanted to tone down their daughters' appearances. "We're spending $30,000 to save you from becoming someone disgusting," my mother said, as if it were an act of love. I had no interest in that kind of life. I wanted to study marine biology, but that didn't matter to them. In their eyes, beauty was a threat that needed to be eliminated. They showed me mock-up photos of what I'd look like after the procedure. I felt sick. I said I'd never go through with it, but they laughed and told me I wouldn't have a choice. "Be glad we warned you," my mother said. From that moment, the psychological torment began. I lived with the countdown constantly hanging over my head. To break my spirit further, they installed cameras in every room to monitor whether I ever looked at myself in a mirror or reflection. If I did, they withheld meals as punishment. I had to wear a cloth sack over my head at the dinner table so my dad wouldn't have to look at me, and they began referring to me publicly as the daughter who's getting fixed soon. If boys so much as glanced at me while we were out, my mom would shout something like, "She's not going to be pretty for long," and then accuse me of trying to tempt them. I'd be punished later for provoking attention. The worst moment came when they arranged for a photographer to take before photos. They claimed it was a gift, something to remember my face by, but it felt like a memorial service. When I begged them to stop this madness, they laughed like it was a joke. I tried once to tell someone what was happening, and my mom smirked and asked, "Who would believe you?" They had already begun cutting me off from friends, relatives, anyone who could have helped. Eventually, I realized I'd need to create a crisis myself. I burned my neck with a curling iron badly enough that it got infected. They had to take me to a real hospital, where someone might finally ask questions. When the nurse at the burn unit asked what happened, I broke down and told her everything. I had even smuggled the altered images of my future face in my pocket to show them. The hospital acted fast. A social worker got involved, and I was placed under protective care. But my parents didn't stop. They camped outside the hospital and paid random visitors to deliver guilt-tripping messages to me. They convinced my grandmother to fake a medical emergency just to get a hospital room near mine, and weep about how I was tearing the family apart. My mom even started calling the nurses, pretending to be different relatives, insisting I needed to come home for fake emergencies. They somehow found out which judge would handle my custody case and flooded his office with fake letters from women claiming they wished their parents had corrected them before beauty ruined their lives. When the hospital tried transferring me to long-term care, my parents followed the ambulance and tried to block it at intersections, shouting through the windows like I was betraying them. At the final custody hearing, I was scared the judge might believe them, until my mom snapped and shouted, "She's too beautiful to think straight. That's why she needs to be scarred." That led into a full rant about how I'd supposedly use my looks to seduce married men and destroy families. My dad yelled that I was already becoming a whore. That was it. The judge ordered both of them into involuntary psychiatric evaluation, and I was granted full emancipation.